Hi everybody, I'm Bryan Robinson and welcome to How's That Working For You? I'm the Shrink.
And I'm Monica Parker, and I'm the Smarty Pants.
Boy, is she ever smart. She's whip smart and she's sassy smart.
Heavy on the sassy.
You better believe it.
Our mission for How's That Working For You is we want to take this moment for people who have stumbled along the path and who hasn't, and learn from them, because if we don't learn from them, we're destined to repeat.
But you've never stumbled in your life. This woman is a successful author, actress, producer, you name it, she's done it. You've never stumbled.
On my ass and on my face, I have stumbled.
Well, I have to be perfectly honest. All of us have. The key is to take chances and get ourselves up, brush ourselves off, and keep moving forward. That's what success is all about.
And success is what we're doing today. We are welcoming the amazing, brilliant, talented, and quite beautiful Allie Budd, who is a high-end designer and who has got her own international HGTV show, House of Allie. What we want to know is, Allie, you built this from your imagination, is what I'm thinking, and created it. I want to know where this all started and how you did it.
How long do you have for me to tell you this whole thing? First of all, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. I think, Monica happens to know my mother and my late father very well. So she can attest to this, but I grew up in like a very crazy, wacky, artistic, fun house. And, I think as a child, my mom was like, embraced chaos. We would like make a train in the living room and she'd let us leave it for like a month. And I remember like my grandmother coming over and being like, what's wrong with you? Like your house is a mess. There's shit everywhere. And, my parents kind of didn't care about that. They both really encouraged, I think, our artistic sides, my sister and I. And it's funny to say this, but I always wanted to be like successful. I knew even as a kid, I wanted to be the boss. I wanted to run a company. I wanted to be successful. And initially I thought what that meant was being a professional in terms of like, I wanted to go to law school. So I felt like that was going to be the path that perhaps would take me there. And, specifically talking through with my father, I realized that's just like got a pit in my stomach. It wasn't really what I wanted to do. At the time, it was like late 90s, early 2000s. Interior design, of course it existed, but it wasn't like this coveted job that everyone wanted to do the way it is now. And I ended up going to design school. I worked for a couple companies. One I hated and thought I'd made this huge mistake. It was like this big architectural firm. And I was like stamping firewalls all day long. And I was like, this is horrible. I remember like going out for lunch with my mom and crying and being like, I made this awful mistake. But then I ended up leaving that job. I went to go work for a woman named Robin Clark, who was the greatest boss and mentor. We're still friends 4 million years later. She taught me so much. And I'm very, very grateful to her. Worked for her for a few years and then started my own firm.
Which is amazing. And by the way, I want to congratulate you because I just heard that you won some award for, you're part of a group of designers who...
So House and Home magazine, which is probably Canada's leading magazine, just announced their top 100 designers in Canada. So it was a great honor to be named.
That's so great. So I have another question. Well, not even a question, it's a statement, because I know this to be true, that Allie Budd rules with kindness. Every one of your employees adores you. You have a huge life, a very cute husband, 3 kids, 2 dogs, and you're also friends with your ex-husband and his new wife. Okay, could you explain that?
I think that, which part? You just named a lot of things. I mean, in terms of ruling with kindness, I remember I grew up in my parents' business. My parents ran an ad agency, and I watched always, because I was always there, as a kid. There wasn't really like this work separation with my parents. I mean, they had two little kids, they were building a business, and we were there all the time. And especially me, I loved it. At the time, there was like an art department with like markers, right? Because there was no computers in the 80s being used for that kind of stuff. So I loved being there, but I watched. I think sometimes my mom had to be a little harder because my dad was like the kind that would like throw a party for everyone's birthday. I remember he'd walk around every single morning and he'd be like, Tom, how was your daughter's basketball game last night? And, Sue, like like he knew everything about all of his employees and he cared so deeply about each one of them. And it was a really beautiful thing to watch growing up. And I think I have a lot of both of my parents in me. I mean, I always, if I do an interview, I speak a lot about both of them because, both of them are such an impactful humans in my life. But I think watching people respond to kindness, I think you get the most. First of all, it's nice to be that way. I don't want to come to work and have tension and not be laughing all the time. You spend so much time with the people that you work with. To treat them like shit doesn't make any sense to me. And I don't understand how anyone thinks they get the best out of someone by being awful to them. I think it's a culture that doesn't need to exist. And, we've all had jobs like that. And I promised myself, if I ran a company, I would do things differently. So that's what I've done here. In terms of my family dynamic, I ended up getting divorced quite suddenly for me when I had two babies, essentially. It was and I had also just lost my father. So it's all sort of compounded in that part of my life. It was extraordinarily challenging to go through. And I would never want anyone who looks at my family dynamic now to think that this was like some sort of easy road, that people always say, oh, you're so lucky, and yes, of course, there's components of luck to anything that happens, but it's like being lucky is finding $20 on the ground, right? Like we've worked for this and continue to work for this. I'm remarried to my husband, Martin. I've had a third child, Gemma, and Josh married Erin, who is the most wonderful woman in the world. And I love her. She's an incredible role model for my children. She's loving to not only Joey and James, but to Gemma as well. And I sort of have just adopted this, like, I don't think anyone grows up with too much love. Like, no adult is like, oh, too many people loved me, so now I'm fucked up, right? Like, she does amazing things for my children, and it doesn't take anything away from me. We're lucky in the sense that the four of us, I think, are really professionally motivated. We support one another. I'm traveling a bunch, Josh is traveling a bunch. There's like kind of so much going on. And, Erin's the kind of person. I remember I think it was last year or the year before, I had to miss the first day of school because I had to travel for work. And, I was feeling, anyone who's worked as a parent feels guilt. I remember my mom saying to me, you're either guilty you're not at the office or you're guilty you're not with the kids. And there's always guilt kind of around it. And I try not to think about it too much, but I mean, first day of school, it's like, I'm not winning mom of the year for missing that. That's how I felt. And, I was sort of, it's like, sometimes you think, it's like, ugh, I'm going to tell, my ex-husband and his wife that I can't be there. And, maybe I'll get a bit of judgment or like an eye roll or something, because it's like that's, normal kind of, I guess, feelings when you're feeling guilty about something yourself. So I called Erin and she was like, Allie, don't you worry. She's like, there are 4 of us here. She's like, this is an important work trip. You need to go. We got you. Like, go do what you need to do. The 3 of us will be at the first day of school. We'll send you pictures. We'll do this. We'll do this. Like, that's the kind of human being she is. So although it's been, many years and a road for us to get here as a family, we're all committed to our children having one family. They don't do 2 things. Punishments carry over at both houses. There's no like schedule to talk for 10 minutes a day. Like, obviously we have our schedule, but we're always changing things up. We're always, doing things together. We're actually taking a trip for the first time at Christmas all together, which we haven't done before. And I'm really proud of that. My best friend, I've had the same best friend my whole life, and her daughter looks at her and she's like, Mummy, do you think that you and Daddy could get divorced so that I can have a Marty and an Aaron? And Morgan looked like she was dying. She was like, if you've ever wanted like to know that you've done something right, like please take what my 6-year-old has just asked me, that if Daddy and I could get divorced, because she looks at your family and sees there's 4 of you and you love each other, and that's what she wants.
Ellie, I have a question. I wanted to ask you. You said, or you used the word chaos earlier. That you grew up in chaos. It sounds like good chaos to me. And you've become so creative. Your life sounds so stable. I went on your website and looked at your designs, and it blew me away. I wanted to live in every one of those places where you designed them. You're incredibly talented. So, what do you say to people who fall down, who stumble, who get lost, or who grow up in bad chaos?
First of
How can
all,
they be
don't
successful?
think for one second that I have not had my fair share of failures, of hurdles, all of those kinds of things. I definitely have. I think that, you know, I I look at my failures as the paths to my success. And I don't, it's like anything in life, it's balance, right? So if you never felt sad, you would never feel happy because you wouldn't know what that is. So I think that it's life is challenging and hard. And I think the word hustle just truly, refers to somebody that's willing to get through their hard times, get the perspective that they need, and use it to channel their success.
Uh,
I want to know if I can have the rights to your life so that I can develop a TV show from this, because we need more goodness, more. I mean, the best thing, Allie, I know you and I know your family. You do all laugh. You laugh at your mistakes. Yes, you get angry. I've actually seen that too. But you're human. And that, to me, is the way you view your life and what you just said about, of course, you can't be happy if you've never felt sad. Finding all of that, I mean, that is a great lesson for lots and lots
yes,
of people.
it is.
I
Sure
think
is.
that, I know you do a lot of speaking gigs, and I know why. Because you talk about things that other people actually don't talk about. And it involves not only what you've built in this extraordinary company of yours, but it applies to life. You don't seem to have a separation in work, private life. You seem to have managed to find a way, if I'm right, to blend them all.
That's such a stupid notion to me. It's like, oh, we're one person 9 to 5, and then we're another person 5 to 9. Like, I remember when I was younger, I think I don't know, I think I was working out of my house still at the time. And I remember James must have been like a baby. Like, I was probably holding him, and, Joey would have been 1.5. And I don't know where anyone else in the house was. I'm on a call with an important client, a job I really wanted. And it was probably decorating a basement. I don't know what it was. But both kids come in, they're crying, their and I'm like, shh. like trying to pretend that they didn't exist, as if somehow me being a mother would, you know, would not allow me to do the job that I was pitching properly. And then afterwards, I remember thinking, like, that's so stupid. Like, and I think COVID actually did this for a lot of us. It humanized people from a professional standpoint. And we need that. Like, I'm a business owner, I'm a wife, I'm a mother. Like, those things don't, I mean, I try and do whatever I'm doing, I try and do that, you know. I would never say I'm never answering an email on a weekend. That's insane. But I would never say that I wouldn't leave work early, you know, because one of my kids has something. You know, it's the balance. I'm both. I literally had two of my staff, I had to bring them. James had an ear infection, and like I had to do a site visit and I had to get him to the doctor. They came with me to my kid's doctor's appointment, and then he went to the site visit. Like, that's how I organized that day, and that's what had to happen.
I am wildly impressed by, you know, we've heard these things about mothers so often about the, you know, there's so much expected of a mother, so she can't have a business. And what you just said pushed this all together in a new paradigm. And
that paradigm is called work-life integration instead
Right.
of work-life balance. Yeah, that's what you're doing.
I think that you have to be in the right environment. You know, if you want to be an investment banker and, you know, you want kind of a 9-to-5 life, you've picked the wrong job, right? So I think that there's also understanding what you want out of your life and the roads that you can take to ensure that you have both those things.
And for those who can't afford to have help, as it were, to add to it, what you said about taking your employees, who are also your friends, with you, so in order to actually be able to continue business and have a babysitting service.
Because listen, I have a nanny. I like scream that from the rooftops. Leanne has been with my family for 7 years. I think that there's this awful thing that's happening, that it's like women are supposed to do everything on their own, and they'll get criticized if they talk about the help that they have. You know, I could never do this without my nanny. She's like my sister wife. None of this would be, she's one of the most important women in my life. She takes care of my children. You know, she helps me with our house. Like, I also think it's really important for women in successful positions to discuss these things, because I see so much on social media. It's like, I saw this girl recently and she was like rocking the baby. She's like, "Ugh, I'm so stressed." And I'm like, just turn off the camera and hand her to your nanny. Do you know what I mean? Like, just be honest about what's going on in your life. You're allowed to be stressed and have a lot going on and have help. That's okay. It actually makes people who don't have that, I think, understand that you're not doing everything. You're not a superwoman. You don't have superpowers. Because I think that that's a huge misconception about women.
Agreed. I found this quote that I thought was sort of perfect for you. Doctors save lives by constructing a healthy life. Designers save lives by constructing a life worth living. That would be you.
Sure, I'll take it.
You will? When you hear that, can you really take that in?
When I'm speaking about something, I'm like so involved in speaking about it. I have so much going on in my day-to-day life that I don't really like think too much about, wins that have it's always like the next, so I have a really hard time. Like, I get very uncomfortable with praise, oddly enough, because I seem like the kind of person that like really wants it all the time, and maybe that's partially true, I don't know, but I am very uncomfortable when people are like say things that resemble praise.
I have a question for you. And I wonder, as you're talking, do you, like some of the most accomplished people on this planet, have a little voice in your head ever that said, "I can't do it," or "You don't know what you're doing,"
A
or
great
"You're going to
question.
screw up"?
Therapy all the time.
Tell us about that. I think all the audience needs to hear that so they know it's normal when they have it.
Called imposter syndrome. I've been
Yeah.
in therapy for years talking about it. I think that there's like a why me component to so many
Yes.
things. I think that, I mean, I can talk to you like a therapist about it, but I think understanding a concept rationally and then implementing that logic into your life is very challenging, right? So those are two separate things. Yeah, I mean, constantly I feel like I'm not deserving of certain things, or why me, or I belittle accomplishments that I've had, or I like don't want to talk about them. I think, yeah, it's constant. And I think there's a lot of people that, from my understanding, that are self-made, so to speak, that feel this way because there's always been this component of like clawing and hustle and trying to move the dial.
People like Tom Hanks, Maya Angelou, Michelle Obama all have talked about that imposter syndrome.
I mean, I'm not sure I'm in that crew.
You're in a good club, actually. So, what do you do with that voice, though? Obviously, you don't listen to it.
I don't have time to listen to it. Like, I think I'm really good at compartmentalizing things, and I think I'm really good at focusing on the task at hand. And here's the truth. I think I have a lot that surrounds me that, my life is like very grounded. I've had the same best girlfriends my entire life. I'm very close with my family. I'm not like out there getting my head filled, by like new influencer friends. So I think, being grounded and being humble. And I also think as a business owner, it's like you're either so busy you can't breathe or you're about to declare bankruptcy. And like there's literally no in between. So I feel like you're always in this mindset of things are so hectic. Like, do we have enough work? Like you don't have time to be thinking like, oh, I'm so fucking fabulous. I don't know.
And you are.
So what's next? What's your next chapter?
I think one of the things that I've grown to love most about my outlook on life is that I don't plan. I sort of try and take opportunities like I'm always working towards something, but I don't always know what that something is. The best things that have ever happened to me in my life are the things that I wasn't expecting and that I was able to be super decisive about and just take some big swings. So I think what's next is just big swings, whatever they are.
I think that's the creative cycle. I think there's a gestation period where you don't know you're dreaming your next. I mean, I relate to that. I don't know that I'm dreaming it, but I am. And then one day it comes out as something whole.
Yeah.
Right?
I think taking chances too. And like when you're so focused on one thing, I think it's not a bad thing to be focused, but not at the expense of missing all the other things.
I've got to just say this to you that you're an amazing organic thinker, speaker. Everything you say has value to it. So I want to thank you for that.
You're a bit biased. Like, let's be honest. You've known me a long time. You have like genuine love for me. So you might be a little bit biased.
She's not, because I feel the same way and I just met you. We're going to have to wrap it up though.
Allie, we have to wrap it up, but I just want to say what I know about you is that empires aren't built out of just having a great idea. They require hard work and grit. So here's to you for being that girl.
Allie, where can people find you?
Yes.
I mean, find me on my Instagram, Allie Budd Interiors. Google me. Please watch House of Allie. It's on Hulu in the US. It's all over the world. It's coming to Canada in 2024. It's super organic and authentic, and I think you'll really kind of see me in it a lot. So
I'll be watching.
Like this conversation, watch the show.
Great. Thank you, Allie.
Thank you, Allie. Love you, Allie.
Bye-bye.
Love you.
So what do you think the takeaway is?
Oh, easy.
What?
You have a dream, you have to work hard to make it happen. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And also, you have to have balance. And listening to Allie, that woman has an idea of what balance means.
You have to take chances. You
Yeah.
have to, when you fall down, don't let that be the end. Pick yourself up like she did. She had many times, even the little voice in her head told her she couldn't do it. Don't listen to it. Keep going. You can do it. We have fallen. We have picked ourselves up, and believe me, that's part of it. You don't get anywhere unless you're willing to accept that and persevere.
I can't top that. I can't. I wish I could, but I can't. Please watch us on our YouTube channel. Thank you for being here today.
We look forward to seeing you again next time.
We do.
Bye.
Bye.